In 1968, Romania accidentally came into possession of a weapon unlike anything humanity had ever seen. A weapon not of this earth. But the story begins earlier. In 1964, near Bușteni, in the Valea Cerbului, the communist authorities discovered an extraterrestrial craft, secretly transported to a military research center near Bucharest. Its technology was studied by the Romanian army. From inside, a strange turret was extracted. Mounted on the chassis of a tank, it became a devastating weapon. 4 laser beams, firing simultaneously. Romanian researchers managed to activate it, and, for a brief time, Romania possessed the most powerful weapon on Earth.
Pătrunderea trupelor celor 5 țări socialiste în Ceaușescu constituie o mare greșeală și o primejdie gravă pentru pacea în Europa, pentru soarta socialismului în lume.
August 21st, 1968. Ceausescu, standing before the people in Bucharest, harshly condemns the Warsaw Pact attack against Czechoslovakia. The Soviet Union's response does not take long. The Red Army mobilizes at Romania's borders, despite signals from other communist states, which did not support another invasion. The West and China also show willingness to support Romania, with whatever means they could. Yet Brezhnev remains unshakable. His decision to deliver a harsher lesson than the one given to Czechoslovakia was irreversible. The Soviets, however, receive alarming reports about a new and extremely dangerous weapon that Romania supposedly had in its arsenal. Through spies and Romanian army members working for Moscow, the Soviets attempt to obtain information about this weapon, but secrecy was complete, and their intelligence services could not discover what the weapon actually was. Early September 1968. The Romanian army mobilizes significant troops to defend against the Soviet invasion. The Soviets have over 200,000 soldiers stationed at Romania's borders. On the morning of September 7th, Soviet command receives a report stating that a small Romanian military unit, equipped with an unprecedented piece of equipment, was moving towards Sighetu Marmației. Aircraft are immediately launched, briefly entering Romanian airspace. The equipment is photographed, but since it is covered, little can be deduced. The Soviets conclude it must be the prototype of the Romanian weapon and decide to provoke the Romanian army into using it. Night of September 7th to 8th, 1968. A Soviet column advances towards Sighetu Marmației. Near the Romanian border, the unit's commander is contacted over the radio by Colonel Ioan Crișan. He demands that they stop their advance and not cross into Romanian territory in order to avoid bloodshed. Commander Igor Kovalev orders Colonel Crișan to have the Romanian army stand down and withdraw, allowing Soviet forces to pass through. In a grim tone, Crișan replies that he has clear orders and will oppose the Soviet forces. Kovalev, too, has clear orders. Romania had to be provoked into using its new weapon. The column advances. The Romanian army positions its forces on a ridge dominating the Soviet approach. MiG-21 fighters in southern Ukraine prepare to annihilate the Romanian positions. Colonel Crișan makes one last attempt to stop the Soviet advance, but when faced with another refusal, he gives the order to open fire. At that moment, the Romanian army's secret equipment is prepared for combat. The Soviets described it as a tank chassis, fitted with a turret mounting 4 barrels. Soviet artillery is ready to bombard, and aircraft are prepared as well, but the Soviet Operations Command insists that the column advance without cover. The Romanian army opens fire, the turret simultaneously launches 4 beams aimed at the first Soviet tank in the column. The tank begins to melt, Soviet soldiers scramble out, and those nearby flee. The tank becomes inoperable. Kovalev calls for return fire. He is told to advance, but to avoid firing directly at the new Romanian weapon. The column pushes on. A few Soviet tanks fire at Romanian positions, but far from the laser tank. The Romanian tank fires a second volley. Another Soviet tank is pierced and explodes as its onboard ammunition detonates. 2 more tanks are hit and abandoned by their crews. The column halts, but the Romanian weapon continues targeting 2 armoured personnel carriers. At that moment, a MiG-21 swoops in at low altitude, launching an attack on a Romanian position. The tank redirects its beams and shoots down the plane. This is when Kovalev receives the order to stop the attack. He radios Krishan. "Enough, Colonel. You may cease fire. We are withdrawing. You fought well today." The Soviet column turns back. Yet Moscow immediately begins large-scale investigations. Massive espionage efforts are launched to learn everything about the weapon. Western forces also take notice of Romania's action, attempting to understand what they were dealing with. The Romanian state, however, could no longer guard the secret as before. Too many soldiers and local villagers had seen the weapon in action. What no one knew, however, was that after firing on the Soviet aircraft, the weapon no longer functioned. The Soviets soon learned the truth. They knew the weapon was of extraterrestrial origin and had become inoperable. Still, they had to get hold of it to uncover its secrets and replicate it. November 1968. Ceausescu meets Brezhnev face-to-face in a private discussion attended by very few people. Brezhnev tells Ceausescu that his weapon was impressive. Ceausescu replies that what is just as impressive is the large number of units Romania managed to build in such a short time. Brezhnev pretends to believe him, but reminds him that a few hundred laser tanks could do nothing against a dozen nuclear missiles. He then demands that Ceausescu hand over the weapon used at Sighetu Marmației. Ceausescu, anticipating the request, answers that in the spirit of comradeship between the Soviet and Romanian peoples, he would hand over one sample for Soviet study, but not the secret of its production. Brezhnev, already informed that the weapon was Romania's only unit and was now inoperable, accepts, knowing the Romanians had no scientific data to provide. Ceausescu reaffirms his solidarity with the Soviet bloc, and Brezhnev tolerates the Romanian leader's defiance, forgiving him. A few days later, the weapon leaves Romania for the Soviet Union. Yet Ceausescu does not trust Brezhnev and attempts to extract further knowledge from the UFO wreck still in Romania's possession. Romanian specialists tell him that the only person capable of deciphering it might be Henry Coanda, then living in France. At Ceausescu's order, Coanda is brought back to Romania, where he remains until his death, though even with the technology of the time, he cannot unlock the secrets of the alien craft. A few months later, in March 1969, Russia and China enter open military conflict. Mao tries to obtain from Ceausescu information about the laser weapon and whether it is now in Soviet hands. Ceausescu replies that it is, but claims that the Romanian army had disarmed it before handing it over and that it posed no threat to China. The Soviets continue their efforts to acquire the remaining UFO or its data, but until 1989, they never managed to secure conclusive information. Meanwhile, in 1969 and 1970, the KGB captures several Romanian scientists who had worked on analysing the weapon. The United States, France, and Britain also attempt to obtain information. In 1977, the colonel who had commanded Romania's secret laser weapon unit is extracted from Romania by American Special Forces, and from that moment, he vanishes without a trace. Today, the story of the Romanian laser weapon remains only a myth. Most Romanians believe it is nothing more than an urban legend created by the Securitate, the communist secret police, to give the Romanian army an aura of great power.